This is Sarah Morrison, Executive Director of LexHAB. I'm going to outline LexHAB's request to the 2026 town meeting as part of community preservation to support affordable housing in the amount of $395,355. LexHAB is an affordable housing organization in Lexington with 87 units scattered throughout the town that serve over 240 tenants. LexHAB owns and manages a mix of single-family and multifamily buildings, ranging from one-bedroom apartments to four-bedroom homes. It was founded in 1983 to address a growing concern about affordability. That concern has deepened over the years as housing has grown increasingly more expensive. LexHAB separated from the town in September of 2024 in order to increase efficiency and flexibility of affordable housing acquisition and production. 501c3 independent nonprofit status was approved in 2025. LexHAB has a full-time housing director, part-time executive director, part-time finance, part-time admin, as well as a contractor who oversees maintenance and repairs. There are 8 board members with diverse array of experience, including affordable housing development, finance, real estate, construction, and law. The total request is $395,355. This is comprised of preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration, and support to community housing, as well as a contingency of 25% to accommodate cost increases because the request is for fiscal year 2027. As most people know, we have a housing crisis locally, statewide, and nationwide. The housing shortage is particularly acute for low and moderate income families and individuals. In Lexington, the median home price is over $1.7 million, and the average rent for a market rate 3-bedroom is over $4,000. The housing that's available in Lexington is primarily ownership. There are very few rental options, and both ownership and rental options are extraordinarily expensive. Within this backdrop of housing unaffordability, Lexington's smaller homes are being torn down at a rapid pace and replaced by much larger, much more expensive homes. Housing diversity and affordability is interwoven with health and education issues, along with impacts on race, income, class, and culture. Housing is much more than shelter. Where you live impacts how healthy you are. Where you live impacts the quality of education that you receive. Where you live impacts the job opportunities that you have, and in turn, your economic stability. Lexington and surrounding Boston suburbs have a long history of housing segregation. And because of that housing segregation, we also have a long history of education segregation. METCO, the Voluntary Education Desegregation Program, founded in 1966, is still working diligently today to desegregate our education system in 2026. As a community, we have a lot of work to do, and making housing affordable is a critical component. While the housing crisis is not unique to Lexington, there is an important role that Lexington can play in solving this big, complex problem. We need to create more affordable housing. We need to preserve existing affordable housing. We need to retrofit housing for climate resiliency. LexHAB works on all of these fronts. With the support of the Affordable Housing Trust, the Community Preservation Committee, LexHAB purchases small homes in good condition that would otherwise be torn down and replaced with mansions. We then transform them into permanently affordable, income-restricted homes. Thanks to the state's new rules for accessory dwelling units, LexHAB is now able to add more small homes to our properties, making single families into duplexes with interior ADUs or adding backyard dwellings. LexHAB has worked hard to decarbonize our units over the years with support from the Community Preservation Committee and the state program Mass Saves, as well as strong support from our local environmental groups. Another tool to address the housing crisis is maintaining housing stability for extremely low-income households to prevent homelessness or displacement. LexHAB's request for community housing support helps extremely low-income households that are already in LexHAB's affordable housing units. Our request for preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration includes window replacements, basement waterproofing, door replacements, chimney and roof work, and addressing erosion. LexHAB's requests for preservation projects all protect our property from injury, harm, or destruction. These include replacing exterior trim rot to prevent water infiltration, addressing erosion with driveway paving, some roof replacement, rear egress preservation, and other similar projects. The final portion of our request is in support of community housing. These are funds to make housing more affordable. LexHAB's structure is quite unique in that tenants pay roughly a third of their income towards rent. LexHAB's rents are deeply affordable. This level of affordability that LexHAB can offer, because it subsidizes the rents, contrasts sharply with much needed units coming online through the MBTA zoning or other inclusionary units. For example, at Avalon. These rents are calculated at 30% of area median income and are a set amount. For example, a one-bedroom unit that would rent at Avalon would be for roughly $2,000, while a typical LexHAB one-bedroom is closer to $1,000. LexHAB's units are deeply affordable because LexHAB subsidizes the cost of the units. LexHAB subsidizes the cost but does not currently receive permanent, local, state, or federal funds to subsidize rents in any but one of its units. Community preservation funds for community housing are one way to provide part of this important subsidy. As you know, LexHAB has come before CPC and town meeting for several years to make this important request. And to be clear, all of the support that LexHAB receives from CPC, both for preservation and restoration, as well as community housing, is vital to keep LexHAB's units deeply affordable. These funds subsidize LexHAB's lowest income tenants who make below 30% area median income. They're extremely low income households. Over the years, LexHAB has established minimum rents to bring our rents closer to an amount that adequately covers the expenses to maintain the units. The first minimum rent established was $200, which was no longer financially sustainable. Over the years, that minimum rent has increased. LexHAB is requesting these funds to cover the difference between the first established minimum rent of $200 and the current minimum rent. For example, a senior living in a one-bedroom apartment pays $200. The current minimum rent for LexHAB is $1,091. So LexHAB incurs a shortfall annually of over $10,000. This does not include the $300 condo fee that LexHAB pays each month. In another example, a single mother with 2 children in a single-family 3-bedroom home pays monthly rent of $607 based on their income. The current minimum rent for the unit is a little over $1,300. LexHAB incurs a rental shortage of over $9,000 annually. In another 2-bedroom example, a single mother and child pay $300 for rent based on their income. The minimum rent is just over $1,200. LexHAB's annual loss is over $11,000, and this does not include the condo fee, which is $328 each month. All of these households that we're requesting support for are very low income. 17 of these households are below 30% of area median income. 7 households are below 50% area median income. This annual funding request is an important way for LexHAB to be able to keep our rents deeply affordable and provide extremely low-income households access to the high-quality education, clean environment, economic mobility and stability, and strong community services that quite literally transforms people's lives for generations. This should be a point of pride for town meeting members and Lexingtonians, and I hope it is. Thank you so much for considering LexHAB's request. Thank you all for your service as town meeting members.